Hi, I'm Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
And you're listening to Relatively In Tune, where we talk to musicians and the people close to them. Today we're talking to jazz composer and singer Vivienne Aerts and her husband, pastry chef Ted Steinebach. Yeah, Vivienne reached out to us on Instagram to be one of our very first guests, and we immediately thought it was so cool because this dynamic of a musician and a chocolatier, a pastry chef, is something so different from our experience, but also so similar. But yeah, being a married couple, a musician, both of them working long hours.
Yeah, but in completely different mediums. So how does that work? Being able to make two completely different artistic worlds come together.
So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the interview. So you are our first guests that aren't each other. For the first episode, we interviewed just each other on our relationship, both my relationship to music and our relationship to how my music career has affected our relationship. This is the first time we get to interview other people. I've kind of said that I think my strength is going to be interviewing people on the musical side of things.
Mine is definitely the people who can relate to being in a musician's life. Yes. So why don't you guys just introduce yourselves like a little bit, just like a little snippet of what you do, what your career is, and how you guys met.
Well, I'm Vivienne Aerts. I'm originally from the Netherlands. We've been in New York for over 10 years now, I think. I grew up in the Netherlands, playing piano, singing, really enjoying both of it. And then I did go to the conservatory to study music. And eventually I also, at the same time, I was able to study psychology at the university. So I ended up doing both. In the daytime, I was a psychologist, a therapist in a private practice for a couple of years. And in the night, I was a conductor of choirs.
Wow.
I graduated choir conducting. And in the weekends, I would perform with my band, my original songs, jazzy stuff. And then I decided after a couple of years to go to Boston to study more at Berklee College of Music. And that's how I ended up in this program called Global Jazz Institute, where I got to study with the biggest jazz peoples on the planet, which was really amazing. And then I started working for Berklee in 2015. But moved to New York, and that's when Teddy joined me. We met in the Netherlands, though. We had a long-distance relationship. He's like, oh, you're going to New York? I want to join. And I'm like, yeah, you better get your own visa sorted out. So we're able to get him a visa to work at this really famous restaurant.
So my name is Ted Steinebach, but you can call me Teddy. I think that's a lot easier. So I'm a pastry chef. So I make desserts in restaurants. I started off as a baker in a bakery and went to hotels. This was all in the Netherlands. I'm from the same town as Vivienne, Leiden in the Netherlands. I went from hotels to restaurants, and by the time Vivienne was done with her studies in Berklee, I was hoping she'd be back. She did not. This was right, exactly. I always feel like, okay, this was my cue to like move to New York. If you ever see the opportunity to do it, go to New York, live in New York for a year or whatsoever. That's almost 10 years now.
Wow.
I landed a job at this famous restaurant called 11 Madison Park. It has 3 Michelin stars. It has 40 chefs in the kitchen. 12
oh my God.
were pastry chefs. Long hours. I remember 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks. Really the top of their game. When I started there, they were the 4th best restaurant in the world on the world's 50 best restaurant list. And when I left there, I think they were the best at some point.
Yeah,
Wow.
That year.
Wow.
Yes, I think so. So, yeah.
Wow.
Hats off to me and
That's incredible.
So, it was a very inspirational, inspiring work environment. Definitely a lot of work, but it felt so great to be a part of a big group of people from all over the world that wanted to achieve the highest goals in their field of work. I always make the analogy with music, like it's just like going on tour with the Rolling Stones or Wayne Shorter. You're probably gonna get your butt kicked, but you'll carry that with you for the rest of your life. So yeah.
That's incredible.
When you guys both moved there, you said you had like very crazy hours when you first got your jobs. And because it was a big opportunity for both of you, how did you navigate keeping a relationship in a healthy spot?
Well,
yeah, you do that one.
Obviously, my moving from Boston to New York in the first year there, he dove into 80 hours a week. I barely saw it.
Oh my God.
It was really long days of 14 hours and a day. And I think your break was 5 minutes. That was the lunch and the dinner at once.
Wow.
So physically, it was very intense. But I would just go to all the clubs. I would go to Smalls Jazz Club and to Mesro and to Fat Cat. And he would call me at 3 a.m. Hey, where are you? I'm done. And I'm like, yeah, come to Smalls. There's the after hang. And he would bring the leftover
I'm curious,
pastry.
like what age was this point? How old were you at this point?
So this is in 2015. So that's 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I think I moved here
You
when I
were
was
20.
25, 26, something
Okay.
like that. So it's,
I'm remembering the energy we had in our 20s. That sounds more believable. Yes. Okay.
But you would bring the leftover pretzels, right? There's always broken ones, right? And they throw them away, but you can also just like.
That's great.
And so all the people in the jazz hang, they were like, "Wow, Teddy's coming."
That's so sweet. That's
I really
awesome.
still remember that. So
I would bring midnight snacks. Turns out that a lot of jazz musicians are foodies.
yeah.
Oh, I bet.
None of that surprises me. Yeah, absolutely. I've done a whole bunch of research on your music. I listened through Type of Thing a few times. It's a fantastic album, especially You're My Morning and Concept of Falling are both like two of my favorites on there. Teddy, you've talked about how your work with Pastries relates to a lot of the jazz concepts that Vivienne's has displayed. What is your relationship to jazz music? Is Vivienne the avenue through which you first experienced it? Is it something you've always been interested in?
The first option. I mean, obviously, I love music. I grew up with music, and this was like probably to many of your listeners, it's a way of like finding your own thing, or you're creating your own identity when you're very young. So I like from a very young age, my older brother, he brought me to live shows of, I don't know, Deep Purple and
Nice.
Dream Theater, like
Oh, yeah.
your old kid, So I was always very much in the rock scene and the metal scene and all that stuff. And I did listen to all the other types of music, including jazz, but I only knew about Miles Davis, kind of blue, something like that. And when I met Vivienne, she was so involved in the jazz music. She opened up a whole new world to me, and it's interesting that I just go in with a very open mind and an open heart, and I don't know who all these people are, but I just look at it like, wow, these people are really great at what they do, and they have really inventive ideas. If I can make a bridge from jazz music to what I do now, is that I found that all these musicians they don't write music and play it over and over and over. They use their craft, and then they channel their emotions through the craft into their instrument. So they found a way of being creative with like a baseline of knowledge, and just like let emotion flow.
Well, that's something, Vivienne, you talk about
Yeah.
You teach, what is it, complete mastery? What's the term? The school of thought.
Mindfulness and effortless mastery.
Effortless mastery, yes.
Yeah. But I think I have to step in there because you didn't explain what you currently do. So
Oh,
so basically he does not work in a restaurant anymore. So no restaurant, no official job. He just does projects. No catering, no catering. It's really, we do a lot of experimental performance arts. He makes a massive edible pastry painting.
Is that is that how you say it? Yeah.
This is for full.
And while I make music, I improvise to it. So we created world's biggest pastry painting with music and dessert in Germany for 1,500 people.
Wow.
We were featured on Japanese TV. So there's all these projects that we do. We did one in a museum in the Netherlands about Rembrandt and what did Rembrandt eat and how does Rembrandt sound, and we conceptualize the colors that we have available in musically and pastry wise, and then we just go in empty and then we create this edible pastry painting with music that people then afterwards eat.
What led you to want to quit your job to do the project? Was it to kind of incorporate both of your worlds together because of the crazy hours, or like what led you to want to do this?
I had this goal that I wanted to work for the best restaurant or a very high level restaurant. So achieve the highest goal in my field, you know. And after a couple of years of working very hard, I achieved that. So where do you go from there? Do you take a sidestep? Do you stay at the same restaurant?
Or you start a restaurant.
Where you start a restaurant. And many of my colleagues did just that, or took a sidestep, and they actually like bounced around all over the world. And they actually, and that's a fun quote, they had the Michelin stars of the restaurants where they worked tattooed on their arm.
that's so
They
cool.
would have like entire sleeves of their arms. This is from Hong Kong, and this is from Taiwan, and this is Italy. And like they would have like 20, 30 Michelin stars tattooed on their arm, you know. And I mean, that sounds all like very adventurous and exotic, but I wanted to stay in New York, you know.
Yeah.
And I also felt that I was constantly playing somebody else's music. If you know, you're constantly cooking somebody's recipes, and I wanted to be creative, and I wanted to.
Well, and every night the same.
And every night the same. I mean, it was, yes, it was hard, but it was also very repetitive. And that's one of the biggest strengths of a Michelin star restaurant. You have to be very great and very, like, every night has to be great. So that's
Right, it's a machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to be creative and do something different every day. So that's why I wanted to start for myself. And in the meantime, I got exposed to this jazz world. And because of New York, I also got exposed with action painters like Jackson Pollock and Karel Appel and, you know, all these guys that essentially did exactly the same as these jazz musicians. So at a certain point, we were at our friend's party. He's a real estate agent, and he said, like, next party, I want you to sing something, and I want you to do something with food. What?
But it's a friend, right? We want to entertain.
I don't want to do your catering, man.
Right, we're not working here.
So yeah, we'll do a show, but I'm not gonna like plate 20 desserts. I mean, that's weird. So I figured, you know, what's the most exciting thing about fine dining that I thought, you know, it's making these beautiful little pieces of art, like these small desserts. How do you make that for 20, 30, 40 people? And that's where it kind of clicked, like, oh, we should plate a big desserts and just try to like let the energy and let the emotions flow, just like Pollock, just like the jazz musicians, you know. So that started the whole For Fool thing. We started by calling ourselves Choco Jazz, but I mean, obviously it's more than chocolate, and it's definitely more than jazz.
Yes.
And like Vivienne explained, we took it a little bit further, where we try to give people a 360 feeling of like colors and flavors, and even like the movement should reflect the sound. So it's really, we try to give people a feeling of fulfillment, and that's the word vervoel. That's two Dutch words, gevoel, feeling, and vervulling, which is fulfillment.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
And it really hits all 5 senses. Like, I can't think of any other way you would do that. That's incredible.
Right,
That's
right.
so cool.
Yeah.
What kind of goes into the music aspect of that? How do you determine what to do? Like, do you guys practice in advance?
Right. How much is improvised of that? Is it going in with a completely blank slate?
Well, pastry-wise, obviously the cake needs to be cooked, and
Good idea.
all the ingredients are basically ready. So he comes up with a menu and different colors and different textures, and generally there's 20 different things on the table. So I know sort of what's the beginning and what's the end. So I know, for example, if you put a cake and then you're gonna just throw a whole bunch of ganache and cream on it, then the cake will be soggy, and that's not so cake will be later in the game, right? So I know there's certain kind of order to it, and I know he generally ends with spray or like gold flakes or something that just falls, or like swirls down the table. So I know most of the time what's the end of the so I that's important to know whenever it ends. For the music part of it, I improvise everything, whatever comes in the moment. I do have sounds available in my iPad, but it's not like I produce those sounds in advance. So I use the iPad really as a looper or as a musical instrument. So I have, for example, this app, which is fun also for kids. It's called Hum Jam. So with your thumb, you can play all these different instruments, and it has a really nice vibrato. So it can just pitch bend and it can just wobble. It has really good sounds in it. But you can also load your own sounds. But it's endless, and I have a synthesizer app and a Moog app, and then there's all these different apps that I combine and am able to use. So for me, the preparation would be to know these apps, or to know I have a synthesizer too, and a Korg R3. So
Nice.
I have to know all the buttons, right?
Yeah.
I have to know how loud is it going to be if I change settings. Is this going to be like super loud, or is this? So you have to play with all the settings of the machine, basically, to know what you want to do in a moment. So sometimes I have collaborators. For example, with the Rembrandt show, I had this amazing cellist, Marielle Roberts. She's American, and she does a lot of experimental classical music. But she hooks up also like pedals to the cello. So it's like really bizarre sounds on the cello that you probably not expect. And on our show we did with a bass player, Max Ridley from Boston. And then we did a show where I actually composed some basic form for brass. So I did a 4-horn quartet, and I composed like something that was blue. And but I kept it sort of a more modern score, more open, so I had space to improvise on top of it and extend the form. So there was like, for example, there's a couple of bars and it just said a little cross on beat 3. So do something in beat 3, right? Or those are examples of modern way compositions where there's way more space for improvisation within the music. And sometimes I just created paths for them to just be spacey, and I just float on top with whatever apps or synths or voice I have. So it really depends on the setting and the gig and the theme. Because with the museum, then it is an assignment. So we think about what makes sense. And
Do you have any coming up soon? Like, how do you plan these events? Like, when do they typically happen?
we did a very big one for was it 200 people in September. We just had one in September in the Netherlands for this show.
Oh, wow. So you had to travel with the cake, or do you make it there?
No,
How
we
does
have
that work?
kitchen. Yeah, we have full kitchen in Europe.
Oh, okay.
So and a chocolate fridge and the whole. Yeah.
So cool.
So we have setups wherever we go. Yeah.
Nice.
Can people reach out to you and book something like that privately, or do you have anything planned for this year that we, could check out?
Well, there will be different type of shows because of this whole collaboration. When we got stuck for COVID in Europe, we were like, oh no concerts, no food. What do we do? So I started making an album, and Teddy started making a cookbook, obviously. And my album came out last year, as you thought, it's called Type of Thing, and it's with a bar chocolate. Because we became ambassadors for this wonderful chocolate brand called Original Beans, and I really like what they do because they're fair to the people. They pay a farmer's living wage, which is unheard of in the cacao industry. Like living wage is 2.5 times higher than fair trade.
Right.
So they can actually send the kids to school. They can actually grow the business. They plant a tree for every bar, so they're cacao carbon negative, climate positive. And then because they deal bean to bar, they know exactly where everything went. They're really high quality chocolate. So we became ambassadors for them, and one of their projects is in Congo, in Virunga State Park, in this jungle where, there's uranium and gold, and everybody kills each other for it. But these women are just there now, able to make chocolate, right? To grow cacao and get paid well for it. So it's a really big success story. Although, Congo at the moment is still unstable, right? There's still a lot of problems. And this month, oh my God, there's a war happening. But yeah, so I was like, let's support these women and buy their chocolate and put it with my album for obvious reasons. On my album, there's 100 female musicians that I hired, that I paid.
And that was crowdfunded as well, right? It was an Indiegogo campaign.
With a couple of private fundings from foundations in the Netherlands and also the Netherlands American Foundation. So it was a mixture of budget, but it was quite the expense, obviously.
I'm sure 100 musicians.
Then the whole production of it became a book with pictures and LCD, and I also had vinyl. So it was a whole process, but I got the cool thing is I got sounds from the jungle.
Oh, wow.
From radio journalist from the BBC radio. So she had interviews when it was a safer period or a more quiet period in 2016. She interviewed these farmers about growing cacao and stuff. And she sent me 3 gigabytes of her interviews, just everything she had. And because she said anything to promote this project. So I use little bits of these interviews, like shaking of the beans, so you hear digging in the ground, you hear even pygmies singing. I use these little bits into the music.
The sound paintings in between tracks, those are beautiful.
To glue the songs together, because I don't make cultural music, right? I'm singer-songwriter jazz, so it would not be appropriate for me to try to even get close to the musical style or thing they have over there. So but I can use little sounds from the jungle to get an impression of the story and to glue all that together. So yeah, on the album, there's so much variety. There's a whole choir with 26 people and there's a big band, there's an orchestra, there's all these different vibes. And then in between, there's these sounds from Congo. So because of that, we collaborate in concerts that are songs and desserts as well.
That's so cool.
And he's not throwing around. And we do more of these at the moment than the big paintings because they take a lot of preparation. It needs bigger venues. And
Can we back up just for a second? I know you guys said you met in the Netherlands, but how did your paths cross? Because you're a musician, he's a chef. How did you guys actually meet?
In a jazz bar.
Okay.
There you go. Sets the tone.
Okay. Did you work in the jazz bar as the chef, or what? Like, how was it?
You know, I was working in restaurants
In the Netherlands.
in the Netherlands, and Vivienne was already studying in Boston, and she was back
For the summer.
back for the summer. So we were just happened to be in the same town, basically. And I was having a drink with my colleagues and friends afterwards, and that got very late. And then I met this beautiful blonde girl, and and I stepped up to her because why not? And she said, "I'm a jazz singer.
No, you said I'm a pâtissier.
I'm a pâtissier."
And then, oh my God, you're so fancy as bull. And you're just a chef, whatever you are. So what do you, I didn't really like,
No.
but you didn't believe me when I said that I was a jazz.
Everybody thinks.
I'm a jazz buff, yeah.
No.
And I was so
really
fed up with guys that I'm like, oh yeah, you want proof? Buy my album. And he's like, okay, but first I'll listen to it. So they put my record on in the jazz club. It was late.
And
Everybody knows me in town, right? It's
I put a bar stool in the middle of the jazz bar.
a statement.
That is so much pressure on both of you, I feel like.
I like
Yes.
your voice, though.
That's amazing.
Wow. Did you make him make you a dessert? Is
Yeah,
to be fair.
I don't know. Did you hit this?
See, I think at some point I made the filled chocolates for you. I think.
Oh yeah, we got it. But that was the summer after.
Yeah.
Because
I just bluffed my way through it.
That's amazing.
yeah, you carried.
That's the best story. That's
You,
so good.
you did.
What's your favorite creation of each other's? What's your favorite song and what's your favorite pastry?
Ooh, you go first. I need to.
Well, he makes really, really amazing macarons.
Oh,
They're really amazing.
love
our
them.
favorite.
What's your favorite flavor?
Well, there's dark chocolate ganache, but then the outside of the macaron is also chocolate. He replaces a little bit of the almond flour, right, with cacao powder.
Oh, wow.
Cacao powder, but you need not the Hershey's, sorry, but
Good stuff.
you need to find a special cacao powder because if you use the wrong cacao powder, it just gives you a headache because there's so much difference in cacao powder quality. Which sounds a little dumb, but
No,
I believe that.
Those are so hard, isn't it? Even if you get a specific type of moisture in the batter, the whole thing goes wrong. So I can't imagine knowing what to replace it with. That seems really hard.
yeah, but yeah, we did also a lot of filled chocolates. There was so
The bonbons.
oh yeah,
Yeah, right.
he did a campaign before we went to New York. You did a Manhattan cocktail bonbon. So did it come with dark chocolate outside and inside was marzipan, right? And then there was a layer of martini.
No, it's what is it again? It's the bitter, the whiskey.
Oh, I haven't had a Manhattan in a long
So
time. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
There was all these layers.
And layers.
Oh man, that was so much work. Yeah, he sold a bunch in the Netherlands. People are still raving.
I bet. That sounds incredible.
And there was the remember that? We did a special for a cigar company in the Netherlands where you paired bonbons with
cigars.
cigars.
Oh, that sounds fun.
But then you decided to go with a 100-year-old.
No, it's
what was it?
so I came across this cigar company and they wanted to do something with chocolate because that works. And I thought, well, I mean, a good scotch in cigars, that works. So put a good scotch in these filled chocolates, these bonbons. So I teamed up with a friend I know. He's a connoisseur, or he drinks a lot of whiskey, or whatever you want to call it.
Or both.
So so the grande dame of the cigars, I paired that with a 1988 Blair Ethel.
Right.
So there's only, I don't know, they only make 100 or 200 bottles a year or something.
Oh my God.
It's a very expensive whiskey, and it's totally ridiculous to put it in chocolate, but why not,
Yeah, but that was very
Exactly.
By the time we did the pairing, you had all these guys with beards and the cigar smokers, and they were munching on the filled chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this is delicious.
That's
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your favorite song?
My favorite song. Man, the first thing that comes to mind is Vivienne is kind of working on new material right now, and she
yeah.
had a song called "Where Is the Sun." That's I think that's beautiful. But existing material that your listeners might be able to find on YouTube. In 2013, we managed to bring Lee Konitz, the legend saxophone player, back to our hometown in Leiden. There's a beautiful church, or almost a cathedral, and Vivienne set up this entire concert, part of the jazz week of that town. And we had Lee Konitz, and we had the German piano player Florian Weber. And Vivienne has a song called "Smile."
Oh yeah.
It's very free form. It's a very beautiful. It has beautiful lyrics, but the way she pronounces the lyrics and she brings it forward hits something right in the heart. It just pierces straight through. So if you're able to find it, it's probably she
that one is
2013 Jazz Week Leiden. It's called "Smile." That's really, I don't know. It starts with this minute and a half improvisation of her, and it's just after 20 seconds you're there's goosebumps, and that's really beautiful. Yeah.
I love that you guys are so invested in each other's art. And I know that, based on us, we can sometimes clash, or there's some trouble.
We're not on the same page with
getting
creative stuff at times.
Yeah, getting on the same page. Is there any time that you guys feel like the difference in your careers and interests cause any conflict?
I don't know if we're really clashing.
It seems very intertwined. Yeah,
I think this is the secret to any relationship.
I actually have a good example.
Oh, sorry.
You remember that one show we did in somebody's house in the Netherlands, right? At Luc.
Oh yes.
I mean, we love the people. And we were invited, and we don't do house shows because
I was going to say, shows in somebody's house, there's always something that goes.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Right. So anyway, but it was one of my mentors, very good friends. So we made this exception. We say, okay, we'll make a small one, and it doesn't make sense. But you asked the inspiration, and it was sea and sand and beach and stuff, and. You remember? And then it happened you tried to make a figurative painting.
Right.
He was, normally it's the splashes, right? It's abstract. But at that time you wanted to make a beach. And it became an actual picture. It was so dumb.
We both agreed on it afterward, but
sometimes you got to try things. See if it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. It's okay.
And also, what I teach? I teach how to be free, right? My teaching at Berkeley, I do a lot of variety of courses by now, but for 9 years I worked with Kenny Werner, and I did basically everything for the Institute and for his brand. So I ended up teaching effortless mastery, and basically it's mindfulness for musician, how to be free of self-judgment, how to just let the music play itself. And a lot of people struggle because it's in their mind, and why? It's expectations. The need to sound good gets into the way of sounding good. So for a moment there, I saw that in Teddy. I'm like, wow, you really want to create something, and it doesn't make sense because you lose the moment, right? You're not in the flow because your ego is going in there. So whenever there were moments where I saw you being like a theatrical act, because you're like, oh, I'm gonna paint, and it doesn't make sense, right? So by now, you got over it, but I think in the beginning it was just flow. Remember the first one you did?
No, that's true.
Jackson Pollock in Leiden.
That's very.
That was for 200 people, and it was just black and red, and it was yellow.
Yeah.
On 200 bathroom tiles that could be served afterwards, which was intense and gross because there was a lot of dishes. Like they were bathroom tiles, so that's not convenient. So anyway, that was the first one. And when was it? 2016. But that was very natural experience because it was like you were just in that flow.
Yeah.
But over time, I remember the one where you tried to do the beach was like, yeah, we both agreed afterwards that
Wow, that really looked like
it was
shit.
the mind. It was the mind getting into the way of that flow. You wanted to make something good, and that just got into the way of that flow and actually just being. So yeah, let me be the music, and then you just be the hands that make that painting.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to put your ego. I mean, ego sounds so horror, but
No, but not in the sense of like a
Right.
self-centeredness, but just like
Right.
just thinking too much, trying to
Exactly.
force it into
Yeah.
something. I get that.
yeah, and it's scary. I get it because you just throw a blurb of chocolate and it looks them up, right? So it's always scary in a way, right? Oh, I hope this is gonna come out good. And I mean, you could go on their website. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I've seen it. So pretty.
It is really like a Jackson Pollock.
Yeah.
And then it's delicious, obviously, for obvious reasons. But yes, there is that moment that you're in an empty, and it's big. It's an empty canvas, and what do you do? And that's the same with music, right?
I was gonna say she's heard
there's
so
a
many things as I'm recording. She's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing in there?
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to start, and then you go from there.
Do you have any advice on how to do that? Because I feel like I like music, and I can't even imagine how he writes songs all the time like that. I could never. I'm so in my head. And I also struggle with mental illness, and so does he to a degree. And anytime I try to paint or do anything artistic, it becomes very stressful, and my body holds all that stress, and then it's not fun anymore. So do you have any advice on how to just like turn that part of your brain off, especially with your psychology background?
Yeah, obviously. It's the power is in starting over. The power is in taking your hands off the instruments, and that's in the wider sense, right? You take a break. Whenever you start noticing your ego creeps in or your attention gets up, yeah, take a break. And that break could be as short as just a one breath, like this. And then you can start over, right? Because otherwise you're teaching yourself to just stick with that behavior, right? Your mind is not, you're not thinking. Thinking happens to you. It's a choice.
Oh,
Like you can basically choose to think about something else, but yet we're just the mercy of thought, right? Oh, we're just stuck in a loophole of like destruction, and everybody has different voices, and everybody has voices. Sometimes they're louder, sometimes they're even real, and then sometimes they happen, or sometimes they might happen, right? There's the whole variety of that, and people suffer, but it's always a choice to take a break from it. And that's not going to resolve everything, but it will make you more resistant over time. Like brushing your teeth, you do every day, right? You don't think about it. But if you make these practices a habit, like doing yoga every day, but maybe we don't have time to do yoga. I mean, it would be amazing if I could do yoga every day, but I could take a breath like this every day. Only that could have a big impact. And it sounds a little spacey or dumb or too easy of a solution, but if you condition yourself to every time you're seeing yourself slip into that doom, then just, I'll take a break. And then allow yourself to go back to the doom, right? Go back to whatever is happening. If you keep on resetting yourself, do it 3 times a day. And let's see after a month what effect it has. It becomes a conscious awareness thing. Oh, this is what I'm doing. Oh, this is not going to go well. Okay, let me take a break. And then maybe even the whole drama just feels less afterwards.
That's
maybe
awesome.
It's still big. Who knows? It's not it is a practice.
Yeah.
and just getting better at like noticing it, like you said, is half of it, really.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But
The
you can
awareness.
compensate, right? Like Kenny would say, some people touch the instrument like it's a hot stove, and some people play the piano like it's a warm bath. If you eat chocolate cake, then you're like, you're really into it, right? You're not trying to do well. You're not trying to do a copy. So you could do your art, or you could just express yourself from that same space, as long as you start recognizing that space that you're in when you're free. So that's the mindfulness training.
I love that.
When my mind is out of it, when I'm completely at ease, right? Who's my body? What's my body if I'm not tense, right? If you start recognizing that, then your mind will take a mental note of it. Oh, this is possible. Okay. And then over time it grows. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that really helped you guys probably too, because when Teddy was working those like 80 hours in a restaurant, having to follow the directions, like that probably wasn't very freeing. And then when you guys finally started to collaborate, I feel like you opened each other's worlds. Like, so it's so pretty. You could tell how strong your relationship is just by listening to you gues comment on each other's art.
And how fulfilling what you do is. I mean, it's in the name. It's in Vavou.
Yeah.
Well, we talk a lot.
That's it.
That's so important.
Sometimes we're like tired of ourselves, like, oh, it's always work. Can we do it? And then he's trying to take the break from the work, but technically I'm always thinking about something.
Same. We have a very similar problem. That's something we note very often. You both work from home.
It's cool, but it could also
pervasive.
cause, some tension, because I'll be like, what are you thinking of? Like if we're on a date and we're like just trying to spend time together, and he's like, I'm thinking of this song and how to like put it on the internet. I'm like, but
And just the being together like 24/7
yeah.
is wonderful, but also like, you need a variety of people in your life, a variety of scenes, different places.
And sometimes we feel like life can get complicated. Like some of the things that we want to do, we just don't have the time to do them. Like this year we had to take a break and stop collaborating because we gig together. And so we decided to kind of take a break on that and then do this instead, or just to open up our schedules to have more quality time together.
We didn't have time to go out on dates because every Saturday and Sunday we were playing gigs.
Yeah. Have you ever
Shows
had to
would
do
come up.
that?
They were like, I'd love to go see that, theater show, and nope, we have a gig. Nope, we have a gig.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if you guys, have you ever had a moment where you were just so busy and you just wish that you could do something that maybe you haven't had a chance to do?
Yeah. Did the work part of your relationship ever interfere with the life part?
I think we have a hard time taking 2 days in a row off. But we do notice, like, at a certain point that we're like having a coffee somewhere in Williamsburg, and we're like, yeah, this is gonna be our day off. We've added up to here.
That's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
just stop for a minute. But it's very
Walk.
yeah, it's just a very natural thing. Like we look at each other and like, okay, we're not gonna.
Well, it's
Let's just close our
with the hollow
laptops here.
business. The problem is being international. If I go to Europe, then generally it's not really a holiday because I combine it with there's most of the time there's a tour or a big project,
Right.
because that's why I fly, and it just cover the cost. But also we need to see all the family, we love, and all the friends. So. Yeah, having a real holiday is like most people have
Don't really do it.
No,
That's what we're struggling
Literally
with,
this
too.
year, we're going on 2 trips, and both of them possibly are for performances of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it turned into that. Now I don't get to see my family as often. So we're just trying to find and I also have a 9 to 5 where somebody is in control of me and my time off. And so finding that balance for us has been difficult. But I think like with you guys, because you work together and you have a little bit more of a free flowing job, Teddy, that you guys are able to work together and make that work, which is great. Do you have any like advice on how to make a relationship between 2 different types of artists work?
Listen to each other, be open to each other. I think it's very inspiring to see her create and to see the process. And I think it's beautiful that somebody really pushes themselves in their minds to create something from out of nothing. I already appreciate that. And I always say that out loud, or I try to do as much as possible. So I think that's one of the things that really works. I really appreciate the artist life in her. I hope she does the same. Yeah, so I think that's where the two worlds meet. You know, it's about creativity, and it's about seeing that in each other and seeing what drives somebody, and not trying to get in the way of that. And I sometimes I feel that I'm too, I might be too limiting, or I put the brake on something, or I might be too critical or of something, and I immediately like just physically shut up and think, no, this is great. Just let her do her thing, you know, let that energy out. And yeah, but I'm not perfect, but I try my best to give her all the space that she needs to create.
That's great.
Well, I think it's important to keep on learning. Like, he joins me every week to Boston because for him, that's 2 days of just, I mean, the bus is a pain and it just doesn't line up with my work schedule. So I have to drive every Tuesday morning, and then Wednesday night we get back from New York to Boston, and then Wednesday night we're back. And if I take the train, then I'll be back around 4 a.m. But if we drive, then we're back around 12. Right? It just lines up differently. Right. So he joins me for Boston, and that's your 2 ways of being at the computer and doing focused work, like writing your books or doing a new course. And we try to read a lot of books, audio books. So we've been binging a lot of those in the car.
We love those.
It's really interesting to just learn everything, something new all the time. And you signed up for a bunch of Berkeley online courses now.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Last year you did some Harvard course on
molecular cooking and fermentation. Yeah. And now I'm doing music video production.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
and yeah, it's good to have a lot of different skills and to talk about it. And this way you can, be of help, and we can help each other. Since we don't know exactly. I mean, we have we have so many different plans.
That was going to be my next question, is what is your next big adventure that you'd like to do together?
Well, there's a couple. For the cookbook, it's pretty much done, but it needs pictures. And that means cooking.
Right. Yeah, you got to cook everything.
But it's a lot. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. So because the cookbook is about desserts and fires, it's not going to be a home photo shoot.
Yeah.
So we're still in the process. Then I want I have a couple of albums in my mind, but one of them should be on our very, very, very small sailboat in the Netherlands.
Recorded on it?
Yeah, because in the Netherlands there is a lot of water, right? And everybody has a boat. So we bought this boat, and it's really small. It just fits 2 people. It's like only 2 people boat. No toilet on the boat. No house on the boat. It's really.
So no 100-person choir on this one.
No, not the harp. A harp is too heavy.
Harp.
So, I was
small sailboat.
It's a very small sailboat, and so we'll go to the center of the lake and put voice and harmonica and cello. Probably, I mean, it's in the works. And end of August.
That'd be incredible. I can't wait to hear
live
that.
Concert recording, and have other boats laying around us to witness that. So that's one of the.
Get some mics on those boats to catch the reverb of the lake. Yeah.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then so
that's incredible.
Really awesome. We did replace. It's a very old boat. It's from 1954. So we replaced the deck last summer. So it should be good to go.
Wow. Oh, wow. Well, if you ever need a fire, we have a bonfire in the backyard.
Nice. Good. Maybe we could just do a backyard campfire and cook all these in little more locations. Yeah. And I don't know if it's still a secret, but Teddy's writing. He actually wrote a children's book.
Oh, yeah?
It's about Vivi the bunny.
Oh.
wants to sing like Ella Fitzgerald.
The big one.
Oh my God.
And on her way to achieve that, she meets up with all these jazz greats like Joe Molfano, Victor Hooten. He's an owl.
Oh my God.
And all my mentors, basically, and they give me advice, right?
Like
But
Amazing.
the bunny is not an owl.
Oh.
It's not a...
he's not, or a mole, or whatever. She takes all these advices a little bit too literally. So she ends up with like dark sunglasses because a mole says, the less you see, the more you hear. And she has extra arms because Bob Octopus told her to. And like all these, and in
Oh
the
my
end, like
gosh.
it all fails and she still can't sing. And she's like, you know what?
I'll just do my own
I was
thing.
happy singing to myself. You know, if I'm happy with my own sound, that's enough for me.
That's wonderful.
I love that. It gave me chills.
It's Feminism 2.0.
That's wonderful. That's
But he wrote
amazing.
it. It's 40 pages. It's really long. My bio.
I also love that this is going to very sneakily introduce them to a lot of jazz greats.
Yep.
Like just knowing the kids will know who Joe Lovano and Victor.
Yes,
Like that's great. That's
yeah.
wonderful.
That's amazing. Well, do you have anything else that you want to promote or?
You have a show coming up. I don't know when this airs, but it's
Probably in the next week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In about a week.
Oh, March 20. That's in the Intercontinental Barclays in Midtown.
Cool.
March 20. It will be with the trio. Eduardo Bello is amazing bass player. He's always smiling. And then on trumpet will be Alison Phillips. It's going to be swinging. And then I play piano and sing.
Nice.
I don't play piano on all the gigs, but I've been doing playing piano a lot more, which is nice.
That's great.
What day is that and what time?
It's Thursday, March 20.
Okay.
Intercontinental Barclays. Yeah, it's on my website too.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that's a big show coming up.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking about your lives together. We really enjoyed getting to know you, and I think it was really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
having
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're the first guest, so I think it was an awesome place to start. And I can't wait to like listen to your music and read your books. I would love to taste your pastries at some point.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we should come over at something too.
That sounds good to me. Got a studio here. Yes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much to Vivienne and Ted for joining us on this episode of Relatively in Tune. Thank you to everyone for listening. You can check out Vivienne Aerts' music at viviennearts.nl. That's VIVIENNEAERTS.nl. And you can check out their work together as Vervool at chocojazz.com. As always, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us at Relatively in Tune Pod on every social media network and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.